श्रीमद्भागवतम् 5:14-13 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in the classes on Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:14-13 Ekada asat prasangat nikritamatihi vyudaka srotah skhalanavat ubhayatah api dukkhadam pakhandam abhiyati. Ekada sat prasangan nikritamatir vyudaka srotah skhalanavat ubhayatopi dukkhadam pakhandam abhiyati. Ekada, sometimes, asat prasangat, by association of non-devotees who are against the Vedic principles and who manufacture different parts of religion. Nikritamatihi, whose intelligence has been brought to the abominable status of defying the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vyudaka srotah, into rivers without sufficient water. Skhalanavat, like jumping. Ubhayatah, from both sides. Api, although. Dukkhadam, giving distress. Pakhandam, the atheistic path. Abhiyati, he approaches. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Sharanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: sometimes, to mitigate distresses in this forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them either in the present or in the future. Please repeat. Sometimes, to mitigate distresses in this forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. Purport. Cheaters are always there to manufacture their own way of spiritual realization. To get some material benefit, the conditioned soul approaches these pseudo-sannyasis and yogis for cheap blessings, but he does not receive any benefit from them, either spiritual or material. In this age, there are many cheaters who show some jugglery and magic. They even create gold to amaze their followers, and their followers accept them as God. This type of cheating is very prominent in Kali Yuga. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the real Guru in this way. Samsara dava nalalidha loka tranaya karunya ghana ghanatvam praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya vande guru shri charanaravindam. One should approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the struggle for existence. People want to be cheated, and therefore they go to yogis and swamis who play tricks, but tricks do not mitigate the miseries of material life. If being able to manufacture gold is a criterion for becoming God, then why not accept Krishna, the proprietor of the entire universe wherein there are countless tons of gold? As mentioned before, the color of gold is compared to the will-o'-the-wisp or yellow stool. Therefore, one should not be allured by gold manufacturing gurus, but should sincerely approach a devotee like Jadabharat. Jadabharat instructed Rahugana Maharaj so well that the king was relieved from the bodily conception. One cannot become happy by accepting a false guru. A guru should be accepted as advised in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam. One should approach a bona fide guru to inquire about the highest benefit of life. Such a guru is described as follows. Shabde parecha nishnatam. Such a guru does not manufacture gold or juggle words. He is well versed in the conclusions of Vedic knowledge. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyah. He is freed from all material contamination and is fully engaged in Krishna's service. If one is able to obtain the dust of the lotus feet of such a guru, his life becomes successful. Otherwise, he is baffled both in this life and in the next. Om ajñātimirandhasya jñānāñjanashalakaya chakshurunmīlitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Datati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ekada asat prasangat asat sanga tyaga e Vaishnavachar Stri Sangi ek asadhu Krishna abhakta ar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defines asat prasanga. Asat sanga tyaga. 2287. So what is asat prasanga? For a Vaishnava, the standard behavior is to avoid the association of ordinary people not interested in Krishna Bhakti. Such common people are first those who are too materially attached, especially to women, and second, people who are not at all devotees of Lord Krishna. Vaishnavas should avoid the company of these two kinds of people. So, Krishna Abhakta, of course, one who is attached to women very greatly, which is presently the world population. The men are put with the women from the school, and they receive inputs from the movie industry, the gaming industry, all sorts of movie industry. Even pornography has become very rampant nowadays. Everywhere, this Stri Sangha is very much encouraged. In fact, if anybody is not associating with women, he will be considered a strange fellow, either a homosexual or some deficiency in him, lack of confidence. They attribute such adjectives or kind of descriptions to people who do not want to associate closely with women. In fact, Prabhupada said that people think that it is worse than animal to be not associating with women, because even animals have the facility of association with the opposite sex. But if the human being who can enjoy sex in a multifarious way, so many different kinds of sex they imagine, and if a human being cannot engage in that, then it's a complete travesty, worse than animal life, is what they think. They do not understand Nivritti Marga. And with that kind of people, so we have instruction that we should not associate with women and people who are attached to women. Basically, we have to go to the forest. But there also, it's not that forest means you are away from, just like Saubhari Muni, he went underwater. He got a, So actually we cannot escape because life is everywhere, Sarvaga. Not that in the forest there is nothing, the animals are mating there. Fish in the water also he was mating. So Saubhari Muni could not escape even underwater. So how can we remain asat sanga tyaga then? The only way, as Prabhupada said, is to see them as the gopis of Krishna. Because otherwise it will be Phalgu Vairagya. Simply, artificial renunciation. The renunciation will be like this. कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. So this is where we will remain. If we just take to the negative instructions of the Vedas. Negative instructions means prohibitions. Don't do this, like don't associate with women. That is a prohibition. Such negative instructions, when we say negative, it's not that it is something bad. No. By negation, like describing the absolute truth by negation means neti, neti, neti. It's a negative description of the absolute truth. That means what he is not. But the positive description of the absolute truth is what he is. But both are descriptions in their own right. One is an indirect description, one is a direct. So when there is a prohibition, there is also a rule. If there is only prohibition, there is a vacuum. If it is said that you cannot eat, that's a vacuum, because what am I going to do then with my material body now that I have it? So eat prasadam. So don't eat, not prasadam. Eat prasadam. So there is a rule and the prohibition. Like smartavya satatam Vishnu, prohibition is vismartavya na jatuchi. Always remember Krishna is the rule. Do not forget him at any time is the prohibition. Now they both mean the same thing. It is more complete when the prohibition is also included. So by negation also you are describing what it is. So like when we say Krishna has a form, a flute in his hand, peacock feather, yellow cloth, dark blue complexion, immediately our mind goes to material descriptions of such, flute, an ordinary flute. But at the same time it is said he does not have a material form. Sachidananda Vigraha. So that is also necessary. Just thinking that Krishna has a form like this, that's not enough. Because then we will equate him to a material form. He does not have form. That's why there is Nirakar description in the Vedas, to emphasize the point that he does not have any of the forms in the material world. If there is any form in the material world, it's a reflection of Krishna and his spiritual world. But his form is the original form. Ours, whatever we see, is a reflected form. Like the mannequin is made of plastic or whatever, but it is fashioned after a real human body. Similarly, this human body with its skeletal and all structures is itself a replica with material elements of the real spiritual form of the Lord. So that has to be understood in its complete fullness, and for that both positive and negative descriptions of the absolute are necessary. So that is what I meant by negative. So if we don't associate with women, the description is, the prohibition is not to associate with women. But that cannot exist on its own. It has to have the concomitant positive description, which is then how to, because we cannot do that really. With the same species, maybe if we run away from the forest, which is not possible even in Kali Yuga. I think at one point there was some disciples who were a little bit over enthusiastic, Prabhupada's disciples. The men, they tried to follow this to a strict degree. The brahmacharis, they should never see the women. So, the women should be in a different room during arati and all that, so that the brahmacharis don't see them. Prabhupada, when he came to know, this is nonsense. This is rubbish. Do you mean to say when you're going out on book distribution, not seeing any woman? Of course you're seeing. So, and one of the gurus in ISKCON, he came up with an idea that put a curtain in between. The men and women put curtain in between and have the thing altar there. This side men, curtain, that side woman. His idea. So, this kind of thing, what is that? Niyamagraha. So that is not the proper way, because we cannot hide away. You know the story of Rishashringa. Do you know Rishashringa? I mean, it's a long story, but just in short, he was raised by his father in such a way that he would never meet a woman. So that he will be a brahmachari whole life. Never. He raised him in an island. so that he will never even see a woman. So, of course, later on, the adjacent king, so some astrologer told him that, if that there is one brahmachari in the island, if he steps into this kingdom, rain will come, because it was a drought for many, many years. If that person steps in this kingdom, there will be rain immediately, profusely. So he wanted him to come. So what he did, he sent women. And when he saw the woman, he did not understand in the beginning why your shape is different. It's funny in the description there. So, and eventually he got attracted, and then, he was brought to the. So he was brought to the kingdom, and the rain came and all that. But the point is, you just can't hide from the truth. And even when in Krishna consciousness, when we are following the path of dharma, we cannot be blind to what is adharma. Oh, sometimes devotees who are not experienced, they say, but why do you discuss all these things which are not like Krishna conscious? Let's discuss about Krishna. But they do not understand. Of course, we cannot unhinged, discuss about something which is material. But we should discuss about the material world, because from the viewpoint of Krishna consciousness. Because the Shastras do describe elaborately the material world. The creation, for example. It's a similar topic that the scientists would engage in, right? Astrophysics and this kind of topic. Cosmology, or geography, or history. These are subjects that non-devotees also engage in. So we must engage in this thing, but related to Krishna. So we are not denying the material world, and with that we will not discuss it. Because if you see this verse, Krishna says, Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanayos tattvadarshibihi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance. That means it will not last, the material body. And of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. It will be eternally the same, the soul. The body changes. The body is temporary, the soul is eternal. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. They did not only study the soul. Oh, let's talk about spiritual matters, only soul. Let's not talk about anything material. No. Both we have to study. If we have to know what is dharma, we need to know what is adharma. Otherwise, we will confuse dharma and adharma. We will take, you see, this is, again, I will show this every time. 1813. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya akarye bhaya abhaye bandham moksham chaya vekti buddhihi sapartha satviki. O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and also what ought not to be done. Not only what ought to be done. What is to be feared? What is not to be feared? What is binding and what is liberating is in the mode of goodness. We say Abhay Charanaravinda, the lotus feet of the Lord, the abode of fearlessness. But Prahlad Maharaj is still fearing Maya. What is that? That means to stay alert. That's what the fear means. Like the alertness, which is also explained by Prabhupada in this purport. 10-8. Symbolically, Mother Devaki's constant fear of Kamsa was purifying her. A pure devotee should always fear material association. Actually, if you read in the previous part of this purport, Kamsa represents material existence, which is ruthless, which is, fearful. Devaki's constant fear of Kamsa was purifying her. A pure devotee should always fear material association. So this is bhaya. There is something to be feared. It's not that we are taking shelter of Krishna, nothing to be feared. We should fear offending Vaishnavas, we should fear offending Krishna, we should fear material contamination. A pure devotee should always fear material association, and in this way, all the asuras of material association will be killed, as the Shad Garbhasuras were killed by Kamsa. It is said that from the mind, Marichi appears. In other words, Marichi is an incarnation of the mind. Marichi has 6 sons: Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya: lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in pure devotional service. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Bhakti Revainam Darshayati. Only bhakti can bring one in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared from the womb of Devaki, and therefore Devaki symbolically represents bhakti, and Kamsa symbolically represents material fear. When a pure devotee always fears material association, his real position of bhakti is manifested, and he naturally becomes uninterested in material enjoyment. This is most important. When the 6 sons of Marichi are killed by such fear and one is freed from material contamination, within the womb of bhakti, Devaki is devotional. Womb of Devaki is bhakti. So from the womb of bhakti, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. So if you want Krishna in our heart, the prerequisite is bhakti. Because unless there is a womb, there won't be a child. Right? So unless there is bhakti, there won't be Krishna. Thus, the 7th pregnancy of Devaki signifies the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After the 6 sons of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya are killed, the Shesha incarnation creates a suitable situation for the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Balaram came into the womb and then he was transferred to Rohini's womb, right? So what does that mean? Oh, Krishna, there was a glitch in Krishna's plan where, hey, wait, I'm supposed to come, but he came, okay, just adjust it, transfer last minute some. No, it was not a last minute adjustment. Krishna does not work like ours. There is some mistake, some glitch happened. There's no glitch in his creation. But then what was that then? So, in order for the womb to even sustain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it needs the strength, spiritual strength, and that is Balaram. So, in order for even in order to be able to host the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we need the strength. How can we hold the Supreme Absolute Truth without any strength? He is infinite. So, we need spiritual strength, and that is Balaram, and then he purifies and strengthens, and then we can actually host Krishna in the heart. So, the first step here is fear of material association. So that has to be there. And therefore, these instructions, like do not associate with asat prasanga, asat sangatyaga, a Vaishnavachar. But that means that one has to associate with satsanga. There is such verse. What is that? Satsangan mukta duhsango. Is it? Is it this one? No, not this. Satsangan mukta duhsango, yes. 110, 11 and 12. Satsangan mukta duhsango hatum notsahate buddha kirtyamanam yasho yasya sakradakarna rochanam tasmin nyastadhiya parthaha saheran viraham katham darshana sparsha samlapa shayanasana bhojanaihi. By the satsangat, the Sanskrit at, when it ends with at, it's from. No, it's not plural. By. Or from. Arising from. That kind of. So, satsangat, by the association of pure devotees, mukta duhsanga, freed from bad materialistic association. So, this is very nicely described in 10:51-53, especially the purport. Bhavapavargo bhramato yada bhave janasya tarhyachyuta satsamagamaha Satsangamo yarhi tadaiva sadgato paravareshe tvayajayate matihim. Now the order is, this is a very interesting verse. When the material life of a wandering soul has ceased, O Achyuta, he may attain the association of devotees. Observe the order of chronology. First, there is the material life has stopped. When that has happened, then he may attain the satsanga. So, mukta duhsanga, asat prasanga, if when one ceases, then one gets satsanga, is what is seemingly implied in this verse, right? So, and when he associates with them, with devotees, there awakens in him devotion unto you, who are the goal of the devotees and the Lord of all causes and their effects. Whereas the other verse, 1:10:11, says, Satsangat Mukta Duhsang. By association of devotees, you get cleared from non-devotee association. You get far away from non-devotee association. So which is which then? Contradictory, chronologically. So there is very nicely explained in the purport. Acharya's Jiva Goswami and you examine your own life. Practically what happened? When did you start disassociating yourself from the materialistic association? When you have associated with devotees. So the first 1:10:11 verse seems, we can relate with that rather than the other one. So here, purport. Acharyas Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti agree on the following point. Although it is stated here that when material life ceases, one attains the association of devotees, in fact, it is the association of the Lord's devotees that enables one to transcend material existence. Then Bhagavatam wrong? No. So this is how we have to again understand. When Shastra seemingly contradicts reality, there is something which we are not understanding, which is not allowing us to understand. The Acharyas, they know how to explain them. It's not that the Shastra contradicts, it does not. So this is another lesson we have to learn from this. Acharyas or the Shastra, they don't contradict. So what is the explanation then? Srila Jiva Goswami explains this apparent inversion of sequence by quoting the Kavya Prakash 10.153 as follows. Karya karanayoscha paurvapariya viparyayo. Paurva means before, aparya means after. Paurvapariya viparyayo vigneya atishayoktihi. Atishaya uktihi syatsa. A statement in which the logical order of a cause and its effect is reversed should be understood as atishayokti, emphasis by extreme assertion. Now, this is not clearly understood yet. So, more explanation is given. How can it be extreme assertion when the order is reversed? How does that work? So, Srila Jiva Goswami cites the following commentary on this statement. Karanasya शीघ्रकारितं vaktum karyasya purva muktav. To express the swift action of a cause, one may assert the result before the cause. In this connection, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti points out that the merciful association of the Lord's devotees makes possible our determination to become Krishna conscious. And the Acharya agrees with Srila Jiva Goswami that this verse is an instance of Atishayokti. In other words, so from this lens, let's look at the verse again. Bhavapavargo bhramato yada bhavet janasya tarhi achyuta satsamagama satsangamo. So you see, when the material life of wandering, so if the order is reversed, it's like this. The material life of wandering soul will cease when he associates with your devotees. The effect of association of devotees happens, the effect is that this is what happens by the association of devotees. And because it's Atishayokti means extreme assertion. Like for example, when Hanuman came back from Lanka after he found Sita, he not only found Sita, that was a great service, right, to Ram. Of course, Ram knows everything where Sita is. He is Antaryami, he knows everything in and out. But he takes a position where he becomes so-called not all-pervading, he assumes that form so that he may be served. So Hanuman has done this great service of finding where Mother Sita was, locating her. But then he was so attentive to his service that when he came back, he wanted to give the least, because he already Ram was in the viraha, separation, anxiety. So in order not to increase the anxiety, so when Hanuman came, instead of saying, I found Mother Sita, he said, sorry, Sita, Mother Sita is found. He did not say like that. Because he thought, if I say Sita, before I say found, he may even faint because of his. So he said, found Sita. Let him hear the word found first. Of course, he knows I am talking about Mother Sita. Found. Atishayokti. Extreme emphasis. Although grammatically, it is wrong. Because the subject must come first before the predicate. That's the Sanskrit rule. Language rule. But it was inversed because of Atishayokti, extreme assertion. So, because here who is speaking? That Muchukunda. He wanted to assert this thing that the material life, which is so painful, will be completely finished. So he put the effect first. So in this way, the acharyas have brought out the true meaning of this verse. So by devotee association, asat prasanga, how can we get out of that? By satsanga, satsangamo. Satsangamo yarhi tadaiva sadgatau paravareshe tvai jayate matih. Because unless even our Krishna consciousness is dependent on what? Just now we have seen this negative instruction of, not to associate with asat sangha. But if we do that alone, then we are left with a mithyachara mentality, a pretending mentality where we are externally avoiding, but our mind is dwelling. So what is the solution? Solution is this famous verse. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. This param drishtva is the key. Unless we have a higher taste, we cannot give up the lower taste. There is zero chance. Because the void has to be filled up. We cannot live in a vacuum. Take out the association, but what else we have? We have to replace it with satsanga. You see, if you take a plastic bottle, water bottle, those disposable ones, and you suck the air out, it will crush. Implosion is what happens. But when you suppose it's full with water and then now you empty it into some other container, the bottle is not crushed. Why? Why is it not crushed? Because when we're emptying the bottle of air, it is crushing. When the water is there, there is no air there. But when the water goes out, then the air replaces immediately. We don't see that. We see the water coming out. The air going in, we don't see. So the external symptom of a advancing devotee is his virakti. Bhakti hi pareshanubhava virakti. But outside we can see virakti. We will not know his bhakti pareshanubhava. But by virakti we can understand how much bhakti is there. Because if there is a little bit water only left, you must know that the rest is filled with air. So if he has little interest in material world, that means he has high interest in Krishna. So unless we become spiritually surcharged, and this is not only when we come to the level of prema that we experience some higher taste. No. It's not that Until bhava stage, it is zero. And then prema stage, it is suddenly you wake up one day, you are in prema, and then 100% you are Krishna conscious. It does not work like that. It's a progressive ramp. And the inclination or the slope of the ramp, the trigonometry, the angle at which the ramp is, depends on how sincerely we associate with devotees and surrender to the process. Like Prabhupada said, 1 minute is enough, a ramp, like almost 90 degrees climb. But that is only possible if we immediately surrender completely, utterly. It is not just means that I will say that, oh, I surrender to you. No, actually surrendering. So when we do that, immediately the 100% result is there. But ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. As one surrenders, so I reward. So as much as one surrenders, he is rewarded. And unless he is rewarded, he will not be able to sustain his spiritual life if there is no taste. Why did Prabhupada say, water, we cannot chant. Krishna, Krishna, we are able to chant. Of course, we are still with offenses and everything. But still, we are able to chant. Of course, by the mercy of the pure devotee. But there is some taste. And the more we be attentive not to commit offenses, the taste will increase and increase and increase and increase, and it will become more and more concentrated and condensed, and it will become like rabri. Yeah, not rubbery. Rabri is sweet. When the milk is, milk, it is cooked down and becomes thick and thick and thick and thick. That thick milk sweet, that is rabri. So it will become thick and thick. Our devotional service will become thickened. Means less and lesser gap. In sponge, what is the thing? So much air is there. That's why it's soft. When the air is absent, it's hard. So it becomes thickened and becomes concentrated. And then prema stage is when it's completely 100% Krishna prema. So asat prasangat, there are two things. Now our current stage of Vaidhi Bhakti, we are in a stage where we may have little taste, little bit, but it is not enough to sustain us against the onslaught of Maya. It's not. So there has to be the other instruction, which is don't associate with materialistic people. That is also required. When one is completely pure devotee, there is no need of that injunction of don't associate with asat sangha, because he automatically does not do that. He is not even interested in doing that. By nature, so just like I've quoted this the other day, few weeks back. Indriya sendriyasya arthe ragadvesho vyavasthitau tayorna vasham agachet tau hyasya paripanthinau. Positive and negative instructions. There are principles to regulate. This regulation means negative instructions. Regulation. You regulate something which is dangerous, like gas. You have a regulator. Something which is good, why regulate it? Let it be as much as possible, right? Or something which is bad, you have to regulate it and have to be careful in dealing with it. So there are principles to regulate attachment, because attachment is bad. And aversion also is bad. Aversion is also bad. To hate something is also bad. So we are not, although we don't associate, we don't want to associate with Maya or women, for example, or people who are attached to women. It's not that we hate women, or that is another side of attachment. Vishwamitra fell for both. Once to Menaka due to attachment, one because of hatred for women, the next woman who came. So both are causes of fall down. So attachment and aversion both are bad. So we must regulate. There are principles to regulate these pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion. You mean such attachment and aversion means such controlled, regulated attachment and aversion also? No. We should not be controlled by that also, because there is only a negative instruction. because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. And if you see the purport, for example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. Now, we also learn so much that sex life is a cause of so much troubles. But then it's a necessity, on the other hand, for the conditioned soul. And sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to the scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. But in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed, otherwise there will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. Next sentence. And yet, we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. Just like we say, asatsanga tyaga, don't associate with asatsanga. Who is that asatsanga? Stri sangi. That means stri and stri sangi. Women and people who are attached to women, addicted to women, and those who are Krishna Bhakta. So if you just have that one injunction, not enough. Because that injunction is not going to save us, because my mind is not, I'm a pretender. It's not going to ultimately save. I must strengthen that by actually associating with devotees. So that's only one-sided of the injunctions. Other injunctions, sadhu sanga, sarva shastra koy, lavamatra sadhu sanga, sarva siddhi hoy. That's the real positive instruction there. One has to follow these rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. It is like this. If I'm standing on the branch of a tree, it will prevent me from falling down because the support of the branch is there. But it can be, if the branch is fragile, it may not support my weight for long. A bird and we both may stand on a tree. The bird is not in danger, we are. Why? The bird does not depend on the branch, depends on its wings, own wings. So while we have to stand on the branch of these regulations, but if we just rely on only the branch and nothing else, we have to develop our own wings and fly. That means Krishna consciousness. So we have to rely on the spiritual strength and take this as a guardrail against material fall down, but not the support. For example, there is a staircase and then there is a railing on the side. The railing will protect you from falling down. But I cannot rely on the strength of the railing and expect myself not to fall down. If I'm careless, I can still fall down even despite the railing. And I should not walk on the railing. I should walk on the staircase. And I should be more cautious of myself. I mean, I should use some brain. I have to have some presence there. So I have to be cautious. Even while driving, there is, dividers, there are lanes, there are lines drawn on the road. Those are guardrails. I have to be consciously avoiding all the, dangers that are like red light, for example. You have to stop. Green light, you have to go. Although there is green light, there is a concept in driving, defensive driving. Means you expect the other person to make a mistake. So even there is a green light, you still have to see if anybody is coming from the other, because that is a red light, but what if some stupid fellow is just on another call or something, he is just going. So still we cannot depend on the red light that this will save me. I still have to be cautious. So that's what it means here. These are rules and regulations, safeguards, but they're not enough by themselves. And therefore, we have to constantly keep ourselves in touch with devotee association. Here it is said, one has to follow these, again, repeat that. We should not rely upon the control of such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray, as much as there is always the chance of an accident even on the royal roads. Although they may be very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. So, regulated sense enjoyment is like transition phase to complete cessation of material enjoyment. So, we have to accept it as such and then move on to the next. So, this is what it means fearing material association. Like when there is a green light, you still are cautious. So, that is what it means by fearing. And if you are driving on a narrow lane, you just can't drive fast, because what if somebody just comes, some child just walks, so you're just going to bang him. So that's defensive driving. So anything can happen in this material world. Maya can come in variety of ways. We cannot be cocky, as they say, and haughty against Maya. Oh, Maya will not touch me. I am with Krishna. Maya will make sure. Actually, that is already Maya entered, because when we are that confident, pride goes before fall. So once Prabhupada said this to the devotees, that I will never fall. In the conversation, what is the spiritual master? I don't know how it happened, but Prabhupada said this, that I will never fall. Then after the conversation, he went into the room and he was praying to Krishna. Then the devotees were like, what happened? Then Prabhupada said, this is why I will not fall, because I have zero confidence in myself. What Prabhupada meant is, because I am praying to Krishna, I will not fall. So the confidence is never on oneself. So the confidence is always on Krishna. But it also means that I have to earnestly take to the shelter of Krishna. Then only Krishna will protect, because ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamiham. If I am thinking I have already taken shelter of Krishna, I have not. That's a sign and symptom that I have not taken shelter of Krishna. The person who always pleads for the shelter of Krishna is the person who is taking shelter of Krishna. Is in the process of at least properly taking shelter of Krishna. Those who, like, Hey Radhe Vraja Devaki, out of Viraha, the Goswamis were praying, where are you, Krishna? They are actually seeing Krishna. Those who say that I saw Krishna, that is, they are not seeing Krishna. Some cheap imitators are there. Oh, like Krishna, Prabhupada said, oh, Krishna came last night and he pulled my sari. One lady wrote a book like this about her intimate pastimes with Krishna and all, thinking it is bhakti. The other day, one boy came. He says, I write shairi. Shairi means like poems, So I wrote this poem. What do you think? He came and showed me in Hindi. Some motivational talk, but as if Krishna is speaking it. I said, well, you have talent, but this is wrong, because Krishna won't say what you said. So how can you say Krishna said this? Did you back it up with any Shastri quotation? Where did Krishna say like what you are saying? It is just like an ordinary motivational speaker speaking, but he just put Krishna's name there and Krishna kaha and like this. It doesn't. You cannot just imagine that Krishna would speak like this. No. So we have to take from the Shastra about Krishna. So that is important. And we have to guide ourselves based on those instructions. So we have hardly covered anything. Going back to, we will try to wrap it up as soon as possible. So if we go here, 5, 14, 13. Asan ekada, sometimes asat prasangat, by the association of non-devotees who manufacture different parts of religion. So Krishna abhakta are, right? That is one of the definition of, that means all these, bullet points, right? So, oh, Asat Sanga Tyag. Okay, I should not associate with non-devotees. Okay, fine. Who are Asat Sanga Tyag? Okay, nested bullet points. Stri Sangi, associated of women or associated non-devotee. Okay, two types of people. That's good. Okay. But I need to know who are those two types of people. I need to be able to identify who are those two types of people. Who is that abhakta? Nested bullet point. Number of karmi, jnani, yogi, all of them are abhakta. All of them are abhakta, non-devotees. And even though they may be so-called impersonalists, all non-devotees. And manufacturer of different paths, non-devotees. So we have to understand all these different aspects of all these. So it's summarized and said, but we need to know the full detail. So to this verse we have seen before. So what is the different types of religious systems? Vidharma, paradharmascha, abhasa, upama, chalaha, adharma, shakha, panchema, dharmagno, dharmavat, tyajet. You see, again, this point. Dharmagnya means one who knows dharma. Adharmavat tyajet. He should know what is adharma and he should give up that. How will he give up adharma if he does not know what adharma is? That's why we should know adharma. In order for us to give it up. There are 5 branches of irreligion appropriately known as irreligion, vidharma, religious principles for which one is unfit, paradharma, pretentious religion, abhasa, analogical religion, upadharma, and cheating religion, chaladharma. One who is aware of real religious principle or real religious life must abandon these 5 as irreligious. And of course, the next 2 verses, he describes each of them. Religious principles that obstruct one from following one's own religion are called vidharma. That means they are also religious principles, but they obstruct one from following one's own religion is called vidharma. What is one's own dharma? One's own religion means what? Real religion is Sanatana Dharma. So sometimes our Kula Devata is somebody, and then that does not go with Vaishnava principles. What to do then? Oh, my Kula Devata I should not give up. Some of the Hindutva reformers, so-called reformers, actually they are deformers. So they deform the whole religion. They think themselves reformers, but they are deformers. And they are suggesting nowadays, there are some people are giving speech like this. Oh, you should go and revive your Hindutva by getting aligned again with your Kula Devata, your Kula Guru and all these things. This is their idea of reviving Hinduism. They have zero idea. So that is actually, it obstructs. That may be good for one who has zero knowledge. But one who has, it should lead to what? Transcendental knowledge. That's why, okay, we will first finish this. Real religious principles introduced by others are called paradharma. There are many nowadays. A new type of religion created by one who is falsely proud and who opposes the principles of the Vedas is called upadharma. An interpretation by one's jugglery of words is called chaladharma. And under these we can have multiple, but I'm not going to go into that. It'll take very long. Then a pretentious religious system manufactured by one who willfully neglects the prescribed duties of his order of life is called abhas, a dim reflection of or false similarity. But if one performs the prescribed duties, okay, this is different. So anyway, so that leads on to another question and conversation goes. But these are the different types of adharma. And we should know. We should be able to identify what is adharma. Otherwise, this is what is going to happen. We have not actually completed that. 1830 and then 31, 32 is very important. What is ought to be done, what is ought not to be done, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating. If we understand these things, there is goodness. Dharma in the mode of goodness. But when we do not understand what is adharma, and we only focus on dharma, for example, we cannot do that, because this is what happens. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha akaryam eva cha ayathavat prajanati buddhihi sa partha rajasi. Ayathavat means not as it is. As it is means exactly. Yatha tatha or yatha rupa. In we have Hindi Bhagavad Gita yatha rupa, as it is. Ayathavat means not as it is. That means something changed. So, see, ayathavat means imperfectly. The opposite of yathavat. What is that? That understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. So, for example, even within satsanga, within the association of devotees, there are certain class of devotees we should avoid. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has listed 13 apasampradayas of pretentious devotees with deviated understandings, even within Vaishnava. That is also Adharma. And we should give up. And they don't only exist in Bengal, because at that time Bengal there were these 13 types. That will be anywhere. And unless we know how to identify those, we will not be able to give up their association. And because of this, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given nomenclature to them. When you have language describing something, it is more concrete. Otherwise, it just stays as a vague idea. But when there is a word given, okay, then that concept is defined. So there is nomenclature given. It becomes more concrete. And this is exactly how asuras, the demoniac people, they introduce concepts which are weird things, but they give it names. Like abortion, classic example, is a word. Abort means actually to abort something, a process. Abort a mission, abort a process, something. But they use it for pregnancy, to hide the real nature that it is a person. So this hiding, this deception of language that happens, because they give it certain words. Oh yeah, we think we understand, okay, abortion, oh, embryo, oh, this. It's just words. It's actually just offspring. It's just a child. It's just a person in different stages of development. You may say a child and an adult, but it's the same person, right? Different words, but it's the same person. And equally both have the right to live, according to so-called law here. And why then the fetus is something else? If you see the etymology of the word fetus, it is just an offspring in Latin. Why are you speaking in Latin then? Just to cover up the meaning. So, word, when there is words describing something, it becomes more concrete. There is an idea that is developed around it. So, like Asura Varnashram, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said Asura Varnashram is by birth based. And you can see in the category of Asuras, the guru is Shukracharya. Shukra means semen. Seminal guru, the Kulu guru, that hereditary, which is what this hereditary Varnashram dharma is. So it ties. So there is now a concrete word you can say. Give it a certain name. So assign certain name. So in this way, 13 apasampradayas have been identified. We should know the behavior of these, and also not just apasampradayas. The devotees in the mode of passion, goodness, ignorance, we should know. Goodness, passion, ignorance, and the transcendental devotees who have transcended the modes. Also we have to know. We cannot associate intimately with devotees in the mode of ignorance. We should help them, give them association rather than take their association. So who is in which mode? What are the symptoms of each of these? Everything we have to understand in detail. Otherwise we will make mistakes. We will have blind spots. And then we will make when you're driving, when you're changing a lane or when you're turning, you have to look at the blind spot, whether there's a car just there or not. You have to look over your shoulder. Unless until you do that, you are not safe in what you're doing. So we have to be able to identify. these things, and therefore we have to thoroughly know their symptoms. We have to thoroughly know the symptoms of a person in the mode of ignorance. How do I identify? We observe something and then we have to be able to articulate what is it that is wrong with this association, what is correct in this association. We have to know what is what. Unless we have such keen eyes, we will be victims to blind spots. And this is what happens. What is that? 19.160, if I'm not wrong. If one does not distinguish between a pure devotee can distinguish between the bhakti creeper and a mundane creeper. This is in context with the upashakha, all the anarthas that come and look like bhakti. Similarly, those people who have these anarthas maybe look like bhaktas, but they have the anartha. Unless we are able to distinguish not only within ourselves but also in others, what is this bhakti creeper and mundane creeper? Unless we are able to distinguish, he is very alert. A pure devotee is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate. This is what it means by fear of material association. In order to fight the enemy, you have to know the enemy thoroughly well. You have to know the enemy thoroughly well. And we have to know ourselves also. Then only we can be far away from asat prasanga. So then here he says, if one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and other creepers, and let's take it extrapolate to people having bhakti creepers and people having other creepers and nurturing such creepers, if you are unable to distinguish, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. This happens to our bhakti. We may associate with offenders thinking that we are associating with devotees, and we may disassociate ourselves from devotees thinking they are offenders. We identify as a common man as a great soul is a common man. This is classic tamogun mentality. So I need to know, and if in the beginning I am unable to know this, I have to take guidance from those devotees who know. Otherwise, we are digging our grave. It's not just a pitfall, it's a grave. We can be buried 6 feet deep and we can stay there. So, anything, let's see if there is anything. Yeah. Vyudaka srotaha. Okay, so, wow. Yeah, I'll just quickly wrap up this. So, nikrita matir means they do not surrender. They are against surrender to Krishna. See, whose intelligence has been brought to the abominable status of defying the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is nikrita mati. All this Sadguru, these kind of people having words, again, name Sadguru. Quality is not Asadguru. Actually, is Asatsanga, Tyaga. Give him up. But then people, how you can say like this? So that's why we have to explain why he is Asatsanga. Why is it Asatsanga? So that's why Prabhupada got to their philosophy and okay, what is his philosophy? What does he stand for? Then we can know where he stands. Vyudaka srotah skhalana dubhayato. So one may go to the river to cool himself from the scorching heat of the sun. And he may dive. Oh, but if the water is shallow, then ubhayato api dukkhadam. His heat did not get solved, and water, he got his head broken because water is shallow. So ubhayato. So if the hot sun here is the davanala, the forest fire of this material world which is blazing, and if we jump into a shallow river, which is this stupid gurus, cheating gurus, both ways we will suffer because we are not going to be saved from the fire. Still it will burn us, and here also a head broken because we are supposed to use our head to Krishna consciousness, our head broken. Now here also we are suffering. Spiritually we are not going to gain anything. So Vyudaka srotaha, shallow river. Khalanavad ubhayatopi dukkhadam pakhandam abhiyati. Pakhanda means atheism, atheistic path he approaches. So he will go to the wrong direction. He does not receive benefit from them either in the present or in the future. Ubhayopi, in the present and in the future. Now also no benefit, future also no benefit. So that's why we have to be careful in our association. Even among devotees, that's why we say, even among devotees. As much as we know, the Asat Sangha comes in many forms. And Kali Chela, what is that? Matha Neda, Kapni Pada, Tilak Nake, Galai Mala. Dekhte Vaishnaver Mata, Asala Shakta Kajar Bela. Sahaja Bhajan Korchena Mamu, Sangeloe Porer Bala. This is a Kali Chela. He looks like devotee. Matha Neda, shaven head, Kapni Pada, wearing kopin, very like Pakka Vaishnav dress, everything. Tilak Nake, Galai Mala. Dekhte Vaishnavar Mata. Looks like a Vaishnav, Pakka Vaishnav. Maybe even ironed cloth. Ironed chanting bag even. That means never used. Then Asala Shakta Kajarvel. He is a Shakta. He is actually a Shakta. Shakta means worshipper of Shakti. But why? No. He is having Prabhupada picture and Panchatattva picture Prabhu at home. I saw. He does not have Durga. That does not mean he is devotee. Shakta means worshipping Shakti, means worshipping Durga, means Durga is who? Material world. He is worshipping material world. He is a sense gratifier. That means he is a Shakta. Oh, material education is very important. Shakta. Material job is very, very important. Shakta. You must have few material friends. Shakta. All this is Shakta. That's why Asat Sangha Tyaga, a Vaishnavachar. So even in the category of Krishna consciousness, if we are unafraid of material association in all its forms, all its deceptive forms, if you are unaware, then we are asking for trouble. We have to see through the deception. Alright, so any questions or comments on this topic? Anything to add? Nothing? Yes. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam.
So are you good in terms of the liberation who are actually not in the experience of what's so to speak? Are you Christian fall on the living?
Patanti Adha means fall down. Aruhi Krichrena means with great.
So that is even though they reject not
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that the degree of the rejection indicates how much of acceptance is there on Krishna.
So the degree of rejection, okay, so the question for those who are online is Aruhi Krichrena Parampadam Tataham. So one who climbs to the impersonal realization with great difficulty, he has also employed some vairagya in his great deal of vairagya in order to be able to give up all kind of material association. But how is that then not the symptom? Because in this case, it's not a symptom of devotion; it's just phalgu vairagya. So how does that renunciation even come? How come he's in a vacuum? The thing is, actually, he has not given up. Because if Prabhupada said this, very nicely explained, The very reason we came into this material world is to enjoy separately from God and be God. We wanted to play God, and that's why we came here. And now after giving up, it looks like he's giving up everything. But what he's actually giving up is, I don't want this paltry sense enjoyment. I want to enjoy like God. I want to become one with God. So again, he started back at where he stopped. Back to square one, that I want to be God. So that's the greatest sense gratification. Although it looks like he gave up all sense gratification, he wants the greatest sense gratification of wanting to be God. So that's why Kevala Vishara Bhanda, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Kevala Vishara Bhanda. They are just pots of poison. Both are equally dangerous. In fact, it is more dangerous, the Jnana is. It's darker. Ishopanishad also says, those who, what is that, 12. अंधम तमः प्रविशन्ति ये संभूतिमुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमो य usambhutyaam rataah. Actually, these words of Sanskrit is very equivocal. Unless an Acharya explains, it is not so clear. Because the impersonalists will come out with a different meaning from this. So anyway, those who are engaged in the worship of the demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute. It looks like they're going to Brahma Jyoti, but here they're going to Tama, darkness. Even darker than the demigod worship. Because Patantyadha, it is just a momentary thing there and then plummet after that. So the sense gratification is not given up actually. So unless one is a servant of Krishna, sense gratification is not given up. Krishna Bahirmukha Bhogavansha is only there. There is nothing else other than Bhogavansha outside of Krishna. Krishna Bahirmukha Bhogavansha kare. Nikatastham maya tare japatyo dhare. Alright, so any other questions or comments? Nothing? Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thy Gaur Premanand.